Remembering 2026, looking forward to 2020. Well, remembering 2025, looking forward to 2026. Let's talk about it. Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Herring, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app, see what's dropping during the NBA Happy Hour every Friday, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I already got my years mixed up on the intro of the show, but it is 2026. Happy New Year's. I hope everybody's having an incredible time, had a great holidays. Thank you for being with us this entire last year. Looking forward to the entire next year. Today's episode, we are talking about this pivotal 2026 season, remembering 2025. We're going to finally close the book on that, but remember some of the best moments, the worst moments, what comes next, all that and more on today's Locked On Badgers, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for helping us get there on that one. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's start with Athlete of the Year. We're talking football only. This is going to be a football show. To me, it's Daryl Peterson. Let me know in the chat, who is your Badgers football Athlete of the Year if you were to give such an award? I think it's Daryl Peterson because of kind of what he represents, because of the fact that he stayed in this program for years and kept grinding and kept getting better, because he was maybe our best defensive player down the stretch. Now, Mason Reiger had a better overall season. Mason Reiger was incredible. Mason Reiger was also just here a year. I mean, he was everything that you would want in a portal pickup, right? A great teammate. He would help his younger players. I personally saw him stay after practice and work with the Mason Posa, guys like that, to help them get better as pass rushers. He's great. But Peterson's a career Badger. He's a guy who his entire career just got better, never gave up, didn't transfer, kept working, and it just busted out at the end of this year. He's going to be hard to replace. Daryl Peterson, for me, Badgers Football Player of the Year. Stan Hoke says Billy Edwards. It's not Billy Edwards, Stan. Bo says the punter. We are going to talk some Sean West today in one of our better moments of the year. Dister says Posa, hope for the future. Dister also says Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Dister. Appreciate you being part of this community, man. 3 best moments this year. Again, we're talking football. Otherwise, guys like John Tonche would be all over this list. I think the best one is you beat Burt, right? That win against Bielema, 27-10. You absolutely dominated that game. And it's so nice, even in the worst of years, for Bielema to come up here and just get absolutely punked. Wisconsin was very clearly the better. The Washington win was great, and that's going to be on this list too. Again, there's not a ton of great moments if we're talking strictly football. That's obviously should be noted. We're going to talk Washington, but the Washington game was close. I mean, statistically, Washington kind of won that game. The Illinois game, Wisconsin was all over them. Wisconsin was all over Altmaier. The pass rush was great. That was very clearly, in my opinion, the very best performance of the year by the Badgers against a bowl team. They just kind of took them apart. And it was, Brett Bielema talked about it after the game. They were just physically dominated. So to me, the best game of the year, the best moment of the year for football was Bielema, was Illinois, was that win. And then you get to the Washington win. And what I remember about that really is just the excitement afterwards, the pure joy. You could feel like the dam broke a little bit. People were able to celebrate. People were hugging on the sidelines. And it was just in the weather, the way that game ended with Posa kind of taking down Damon Williams. Everything about that game was just phenomenal. You had the crowd rush under the lights. Just a great, great game. And really that one where you could point to and say, okay, maybe this is turning around a little bit. It's a bad year, but maybe it's turned around a little bit. That Washington game was awesome. Washington's a good team. Illinois is a good team. Those were 2 legitimately big wins for this program. And they just needed them. They needed them so badly for the fan base, for the players on the team. And I know people will say, what does it matter in a season like that? It matters to me for guys like Ben Barton, Daryl Peterson, Benny Anthony. It matters to me for those guys that have been here their entire careers. And for them to get something on the way out the door was a big deal. For the fans in the stadium to see something positive was a big deal to me. And then the third best moment for me, it was the opener, because I was just there with my fam. Miami of Ohio, 17-0. The game was super nondescript. There was nothing there that you really come away from. And we're going to talk about some of the games here in a second. But just being able to be in Camp Randall with my family, like there's an element of gratitude, to be able to be there, to see it. I was able to go down on the field a little bit with my family. Those are memories I'll always have. Those are memories my kids will have, my wife. It just means a lot. My parents, like, it was a very cool thing. It's always cool to be in Camp Randall with the fam, night game, you win the game. It was both my son's first games ever in Camp Randall. So it was awesome that they got a win. Like, you imagine their first game was like the Maryland game or the Iowa game. They may have never watched college football again. That might have been it. They may have become golf fans. I don't know. So getting the win at night, it was a really big moment. Jim says, good to see you today, Ryan. Have a good New Year. Dude, Jim, thank you for always being here too. Such awesome, incredible people in the community. And Jim is definitely one of those people as well. The 3 worst moments. Guys, let me know if I missed one of your 3 best moments of the season, because it's about to take a turn. The 3 worst moments. The first one is the Iowa game. I was there. Yeah. Oh, that was our meetup. That was just one of the worst football games. Not just the Badgers. That's one of the first football games I can ever remember seeing one of my teams play. I remember sitting in the stands in the third quarter, I think recording a short, because the game was over and I was just numb to it. It was horrible, man. I told this story on the show, but we had a fan behind me, a younger fan who was super into the Badgers, and he was cheering for them. And by the third quarter, he was cheering for Iowa. Like, he had flipped his allegiances in the middle of the game. He was like, no, I've had enough. This is not the future I want for my fandom. He made a business. We talk about football players making business decisions. We had this like 7-8-year-old above us make a business decision and say, go Hawkeyes. It was incredible to see the community. We had a great meetup. We had a ton of fun, but that was the most painful game I've ever attended in person, certainly. It was just awful. And it was awful because it was an entire offseason built up to Iowa. Just awful. Then you have the Maryland game. I was there again. Curtis Holland hooked me up with some awesome tickets. We were there. I was there with Zach Bartz. Justin was there. And they just took us apart. And I remember kind of thinking, well, maybe Maryland's kind of good, but they weren't. And we scored a late garbage touchdown. And I remember I was up in an area, and on that late touchdown, someone was cheering like, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, oh, this is so bad. That's just such a garbage touchdown at the end of the game to even make this not. It still didn't look respectable in the scorebook. I mean, Maryland just took us apart. That was do we play Billy? Now let's go to Danny, but Billy got banged up, but now Danny's not ready. What are we doing? We can't do anything. And we're giving up deep shots down the field with like a minute left in the half. Where are our safeties? They're MIA. Just, Stan Oak says Iowa, Minnesota, Maryland. Yeah, those are my 3. And the third one, man, he lost the axe again. Like, I know people that watch the show a lot know this, but years ago, I bought a replica of Paul Bunyan's axe to display because I just figured we'll always have it, right? We're never going to not have that trophy. And I don't even know where I don't even know where my axe is anymore. It's been gone for so long. I was asking my wife during the Minnesota game. I think I told this story on the show, or maybe I did. I'm like, babe, where's my axe? We might win today. It was right after the touchdown, right? At halftime with Carter Smith and it was Jackson Aker and the incredible catch. And I'm like, okay, maybe we got this. I'm going to get the axe out. I couldn't find my axe. It's been gone so long. My babe's like, my Erin and my wife, sorry, my babe. My wife is like, look in the garage. I'm like, it's not in the garage. I've looked. Where's my axe? I don't know where it is. And turns out I didn't need it anyway. I did get a splitting maul ready just in case, in case I needed some stand-in for the axe. I had a splitting maul that I was going to like display, because I can cut me some wood and split me some firewood. But I was just, those are the 3 worst for me. Yeah, it's the Iowa game, it's the Maryland game, it's the Minnesota game. All right, we're going to take a second there. Most people in the chat tend to agree with those. Oh, Steve Kneebone, the worst moments, Allegro and Ilton entering the portal. That's not a bad one either. I really like CA. I'm a big CA fan. I'm a fan of his game. I'm a fan of his family. And then Hilton, the dude would have been a starter next year. This receiver room needs so much help that those are definitely big losses. I will take a second here, come back, talk a little bit more about the games, the moments of 25, looking ahead to 26. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for friends of the show over at Rugiet. This is something, a lot of people, a lot of men maybe don't talk about, but stress is real in life. Stress is real. You should be able to talk about that. You should be able to bring that up. And stress comes from a lot of places. It can come from work, money, life, Badger quarterback health. It doesn't just switch off at night, right? It's there. And sometimes it shows up at the worst possible time. Rugiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rugiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when those moments matter the most. Rugiet Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rugiet Ready really stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. So it's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made that switch. If you've been thinking about the next step, now's the time. Head to Rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Let's go through this schedule quick. Because I just want to really, football goes so fast, guys. The season goes so quickly. And I just kind of wanted to go back through, really close the book on 25 and just talk game by game a little bit, what I was thinking coming out of each game, where we were at, where my mindset was at, how it evolved over the season. So you have that Miami, Ohio game, right? You win 17-0. I was there. And I remember walking away from that game thinking, okay, the defense might be pretty good. You held Miami of Ohio to like 110 yards. And they're usually an okay Mac-ish team. And you're like, okay, man, maybe the defense is good. But I remember walking away from that game just saying, oh my gosh, how could we possibly lose our quarterback again? Like what football god did we tick off where every year he's like wandering his hand over our football chessboard and knocking over our quarterback with his finger and saying, haha. Like it was so crushing that you spend the entire offseason talking about Billy Edwards, how he's going to fit in this offense, how it might make sense. And then opening game, he just goes down. And it feels like your entire offseason just kind of went, whew. And Daniel Neal looked fine. I remember saying, oh, this is why you get Daniel Neal, right? So you have a backup that has experience, but I just remember it was so deflating. And in the crowd, in the stands, it was deflating. A guy next to me or above me said something I can't say on this show as soon as Billy went down. And it was just a general sense of, well, that's the year. That's it. Like, you're not going to compete against the schedule without your starting quarterback. And when he went down, it didn't feel like the type of injury that you come back in a week from. And I just remember it being incredibly deflating. Really, really sad. My son was there, so it was awesome because you get to share those moments with your kid, and we got to see a win. But I just remember internally being so deflated. Cougar says we got to teach Ryan hockey and volleyball. I agree. All right, then you get to Middle Tennessee State, right? You need Middle Tennessee State, and it's 42-10. And I remember specifically, I did a short. I was walking on a dirt road by my house, and I remember saying, man, this defense could be really good this year. And they haven't played anybody, but they've also given up nothing. I think at that point, Wisconsin was the #1 rush defense in the country. Again, hadn't played anybody, but it did feel like early returns on that front seven were pretty good, right? It felt like, okay, I think Reiger's a guy. This front seven looks pretty salty. They haven't been tested through the air yet. That's to come. But it felt like, I remember in that moment, again, I'm trying to go back to the moments after each of these games. I said, okay, this is why you get Daniel Neal. Daniel Neal was really good in this game. He was 23 of 27, 283, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. And you're like, okay, you have a solid backup. He's not as good as Billy Edwards. Nobody's saying that, but maybe he can keep the ship steady until Billy gets back, and this defense is good. I remember being kind of confident coming out of Middle Tennessee State, given the Billy Edwards injury and understanding we hadn't played anybody. And then we get to Alabama. Now, I never expected to beat Bama. All offseason, I've been saying Bama was going to be a loss. But I remember just looking at that game and seeing how our offensive line played for the first time against a real challenge. We got absolutely whipped. And I remember thinking our secondary is in a heap of trouble after this game. And it's not because you can't guard Bernard and Ryan Williams, and Simpson was really good. He was 24-29 in that game, but it just felt way too easy for them. Way too easy. Even for a really talented receiver room and a quarterback, we couldn't get pressure outside of 1 sack from Christian Allegro, where he kind of blew up the running back. That was maybe the play of that game. We couldn't get pressure, and then he just picked us apart. I mean, it was unbelievably easy. There was a couple high-level throws he made, but for the most part, he just picked us apart. I remember walking away from that game saying, "Our secondary's got some issues, guys. I don't know where Rico is. I'm not sure about our depth. I'm not sure about our safeties." Zachman was out at that point. Yeah, I remember walking away from that one being a little iffy. Then we get Maryland. So then you go to Maryland. Man alive. I was at that game, and there were so many moments. First of all, the Maryland game, going into that, I said this is maybe the most important game of the year, just from a scheduling standpoint, because you're about to go into a bye. You beat Maryland, you're 3-1 heading into a bye. You have to have this game. You have to beat Maryland at home because you're going to struggle to beat Iowa on the road. You're going to struggle to beat all these other teams. Maryland is a must win, and the team has to play like it. I remember doing a show about it heading into the game. You have to have this one. And then they just laid an egg. That's one of the Iowa game was worse, but this was so disappointing. And to me, I'll always remember this game as a game where the staff completely flubbed. And I get it, but trying to shoehorn Billy Edwards back in before he was ready was a massive mistake. A massive mistake. And I said it at the time, just a massive mistake because he wasn't ready physically, but you also took reps away from Daniel Neal, which I think disrupted everything they were trying to do. And in hindsight, it was just an inexcusable loss because I do remember walking out of the game saying, well, gosh, this team is bad, but Maryland's maybe okay. Turns out Maryland wasn't even okay. They just took us apart. And there's so many little moments in that game before halftime, Maryland hitting the deep shot against safeties that never should have given up a deep shot. You have the incredibly erratic, in my opinion, play calling, where every other play felt like something out of a gimmicky playbook. Couldn't run the ball. It was just a disaster. The team looked unprepared. It was gross. I remember doing the post-game live reaction show, and Curtis Holland was there, and Justin was there, and Zach Bartz were there, and we were up in this area, and there was noise everywhere, and I felt like catatonic in that moment. I was just like, I remember staring at the screen saying, I don't know what you want me to say. This is terrible. And I remember people in the comment blaming, almost getting mad at me. I'm like, dudes, I'm not out here missing tackles. It was such a low point. And Maryland was terrible looking back at it. Then we get the bye. We did fine on the bye. And then you go to Michigan, right? Then you go to Michigan and some life into the corpse. You take a lead. The first drive is the best drive you've had all year. You're able to run the ball a little bit. Hunter Simmons actually looks like this is when we switched off to the Hunter Simmons experiment. And you have a guy who, okay, he can throw a little bit. We can actually make some normal football throws. You played Michigan pretty tough. They pull away towards the end. But this was a game where you say, okay, there's some life in the apparatus. There's some gas in the fuel tank. This thing hasn't completely folded. It still stinks, right? It's not a moral victory. I think it was 24-7, something like that. But you said, okay, this could be a step in the right direction. The defense played pretty well. Hunter Simmons could be something. I remember walking away, maybe this is a spark that this team can use, but the schedule is going to be really tough. The offensive line for the first time all year looked a little better. Like you're starting to make little incremental steps going forward. Yeah, Hooger said Hunter Simmons played his best game of the year against Michigan. He was good. Hunter Simmons was good. And I remember writing down on notes, could Hunter Simmons be the guy? When I say could be the guy, not like the guy in terms of this guy's going to win a playoff game for you, but could he be the stabilizing guy? Turns out that was also not the case. And Steve Nebone, yeah, too many games where we just did not show up. 24-10, thanks, Hoogs, against Michigan. All right, we're going to take a quick second here, get into the rest of the schedule again, just kind of game by game, where we're at mentally each game, what I remember from each game, and then a little bit of looking forward to 2026. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. Really appreciate everybody being here for a New Year's Day edition. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at FanDuel. I said, Fridays already feel different. Fridays are great. They're awesome. We all love Fridays. And now FanDuel is spicing up your Fridays a little bit more with their Friday happy hour. So every Friday night before tip-off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the NBA season with those happy hour moments. Happy hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. So you can get boosts, bonuses, surprises, opening that FanDuel app during happy hour, always bringing something new. It's a great way to get started into the weekend. It's a great way to get started into the action over on that FanDuel app. The timing is perfect. It's right before the games, make a move before the window closes, right before the weekend starts. It's a little extra energy to our TGIFs already without having to overthink it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app, see what's happening during NBA happy hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA happy hour only on FanDuel. FanDuel is the best and simplest way. It's the best sports book we have. It's fast, it's efficient, it's easy to use. Head over to the FanDuel app, check out the NBA happy hour. All right, let's go back into this. We had the Michigan game, and then you come out of the bye. Or not the bye, sorry. And then you roll. This is what killed me about this team this year. It's the ebbs and flows. It's the inconsistency. It's like a tsunami of awful and then a trough of okay. And then the tsunami hits again and sweeps the family out to sea, never to be seen again. The Badger fans, RIP. You had this Michigan game. You're like, all right, some life. And then Iowa happens. And it's 37-0. And I was in the stands, and I've already talked about it, so I'm not going to recap everything on the Iowa game because that was kind of one of my initial bad moments of the year. But it just felt like they phoned it in. They didn't show up from the coaching staff all the way down, and you had fans there that were ready to cheer, and this was a big moment. And to build up the entire offseason, and you're doing the push-ups, we got mocked. Iowa fans and players were mocking us. Treating us like we used to treat MAC schools. That was horrific. And I remember coming out of that game saying that might be it. Because all year, like I've said, I think Luke Fick will be back. And I've mostly said I think he should be back. I've been very consistent on that. I think coaches should get 4 years. And I think the injuries on this team at quarterback and lack of resources, I think all of those are real. Okay. I've been pretty consistent on that. Iowa was the game that shook my foundation. It was the earthquake that cracked the concrete upon which my house was built. It was... I still can't get over it. That's the worst game I've ever been to. And I remember walking out of that saying, just burn everything down. There's nothing salvageable. Nothing is good here. This team didn't practice this week. They spent the entire week playing Fortnite. I have no idea what happened. So Iowa to me was just a blight. And then you have Ohio State the next week. And I remember my family came over, my mom and my dad, and we were watching the game with the kids. And it just felt like such a whatever game to me. I knew what was going to happen going in. It felt like Ohio State almost took it easy on us. It felt like they could have hung more. And it just, for all the great Ohio State matchups we've always had, and all the energy in some of those matchups, this felt like the most anticlimactic Ohio State game I've ever seen in my life. Like, it felt like everybody knew exactly what was going to happen. And it felt like Ohio State went through the motions. It felt like we went through the motions. It very much, can we please just get this week over? Can we TiVo into the next week? It was no juice because we had not provided any reason for juice up until that point the entire year. Yeah. And Hooger said Ohio State didn't want to show up an Ohio State guy. I think so. It was just such a brutal game. Such a brutal game. Okay. Then you get through Ohio State and Oregon hits, and Oregon tries the onside kick. They get the ball, and then you stone them on a 4th and 1. The game is a game up until into the third quarter. And you're like, okay, this was the Gideon Atuka kind of breakout game. This was the Mason Posa, Cooper Catalano breakout games. And it's like, who is this team? We're just coming off this Iowa kerfuffle, the Ohio State yawn fest, and now suddenly you're punching Oregon in the face with some freshmen who it looks like you brought in a couple closers from the bullpen who have been fresh because they haven't used their arms all year. That Oregon game was awesome. Obviously you lost, but I was in it. I was excited. Like, as a fan, and again, I'm a fan first. I make no bones about that. Like, I guess I'm kind of a journalist. I am a journalist. I can get credentialed, but I'm a fan first, right? I'm in the trenches. I'm excited on 4th down stops. I'm cheering for good things to happen. I'm sad when bad things happen because I'm a fan first. That's, I think, part of what makes this show fun is I live and breathe this stuff too. It matters to me. And I was excited in that game because there were moments where you could game plan out a victory. You could say, well, man, if this happens and we catch a break, we could trip them up. And that's what you want. You want exciting games where you can be in those moments and think something good can happen. So that was Oregon. It was Atuka played really well. Cooper played really well. Post a breakout game. It was great. It was fun. And then you get to Washington, the Sean West game. I always remember beating Washington with Sean West as our leading passer. That fake punt, Carter Smith playing pretty flawless in terms of mistake football. Like, he didn't turn the ball over. There were no delay of games. There was weather. The crowd rushes the field. And I'll always remember from the Washington game, again, 13-10 win. It was kind of ugly. Mason Posa closes it down at the end with a sack. It was just awesome. I'll always remember just seeing the players. It really physically looked like they took weight off their shoulders. Like somebody reached down and took a weight off their shoulders. There are people hugging on the sidelines. And I understand, like, in the big picture, you shouldn't celebrate one win in a, like, that doesn't make the season successful. But in that moment, I was so happy for the players and for the guys who have been in the program for so long and had coaches switching in and out, have had a bad product. I was just happy for those guys. I was happy for Ben Barton. I was happy for Vinny Anthony. I was happy for Chris Brooks Jr., all those dudes, man. That was just such a great, fun win against a good team. It doesn't make Wisconsin a good team. It didn't salvage the season, anything like that. But in that moment, that was a great win. I just remember a ton of fun, the players being excited and being really happy for them. And then you go to Illinois, right? And you're like, or then you go to Indiana, it's the next game. And that first half of Indiana, again, you're like, this team is flipped a switch. Now, Indiana's way better, and they ran away from you in the second half. But that first half against Indiana, I got a text from the Locked On Hoosiers guy, and he's like, I don't like this game. I'm like, damn right you don't, because Wisconsin has flipped a switch. And they did. Now, Indiana was way, way better, way, way better. And they ran away from you in the second half. And we're not trying to moral victory this thing, but you could tell that this was not the same team that played against Iowa anymore. They got after Mendoza. They hit him a couple times. They made it tough. They grimed it up against an Indiana team that has no bones about running the score up on people. So came away from that again just thinking this team has flipped a switch. We're still not very good because we can't do anything offensively, really. But this flipped a switch. They're playing hard. They haven't given up. I think is kind of what is that point of the season where we're at. They haven't given up. They haven't thrown in the towel. They're playing hard. And then you get to Illinois. And I'm just smiling because I had conversations with Illinois fans before the game who completely wrote this off. And I understand why. And then to go out there and just punch Burt in the mouth, to just take him apart, that was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. Again, Carter Smith again gets a win. Those two young linebackers. The pass rush looks incredible. Suddenly, Daryl Peterson is a monster. Suddenly, he's like the best player in the front seven. You have Mason Reiger playing great. They just dominated that game. The most complete, best game they had this year, Illinois. Then you get to Minnesota. Oh, dude. And this just felt scripted to me. This just felt scripted. Of course, this is where I go back to, again, this team with the inconsistency. It feels like it hits you with a trough of happy, and then it hits you with a tsunami of sad. And it's like, you can't play better than that against Minnesota, the last game of the year, with a potential backdoor into a bowl game against your biggest rival. The weather's here. It's perfect. And that's what we did. That's what we did. I'll always be a little frustrated that they completely went away from Carter Smith. I just think Hunter Simmons, I like the changeup, and I said it. I like the changeup, but I didn't think you needed to go completely away from him. I'm relitigating at this point. I'm armchair generaling at this point, but yeah, that was just such a Badger way to end the season, right? You built the hope back up. You played great against Illinois. You beat Washington. I think you played better against Oregon than you played against Minnesota. I think you played better in the first half against Indiana than you played against Minnesota. This team has to find a way to level the troughs and the valleys, the peaks and the valleys. There's too many highs and too many lows with this team. There's too many games where you play really good against a Penn State last year. You play really good against a tough team, and then you don't play well enough, Maryland, this year against teams you should match up better against. They got to find a way to even that out going into 2026. That was the season. Guys, what I miss, biggest moment I missed, worst moment I missed, that was the year. What's next? Man, that portal is opening mañana. Mañana's tomorrow, right? I think so. That portal is opening soon. There's going to be a ton of activity. We're going to cover it all here. I look forward to turning the page. I look forward to quarterback health. I look forward to a bigger budget. I'm excited for that. I legitimately think, and I've told you guys this, I do believe they're going to spend more money. I'm telling you that. They are going to spend more money. Are they going to get the right pieces? That's TBD, because spending money doesn't matter if you get the wrong pieces. Spending money doesn't matter if you can't coach them up, if you can't scheme them up. But I do think there's going to be some players coming in, including at quarterback, people are going to be excited about. I'm excited to cover it. I appreciate everybody being here for all of 2025. And I appreciate everybody for being here for all of 2026. Hopefully you stay here for 2026. Will Hannah says, I will wait until I see their top 10 to 12 portal pieces. I agree. I mean, we have to see it. But I do think they are going to spend the money. Hooger says, Ryan, do you think we sign a running back coach before the portal opens? I don't. I just think this program is going to move a little. I don't think they will. I think it takes a little bit longer at Wisconsin to do all sorts of things like that. Brian Axness, number one wish, definitely quarterback staying healthy all year. No doubt there. Bo says every team is going to be spending more money. Yeah, but the difference is, Bo, and I get this point, and I think it's fair, but the difference is the delta is going to shrink because other teams were already spending more money. So even if they increase where we were to spending more money, we can take a bigger jump, if that makes sense. I'm probably not explaining this very well. And listen, ultimately, I could be wrong. Ultimately, I could be completely wrong. Maybe I bought this hook, line, and sinker, and it's not going to happen. I do think they are going to spend more money. And I do think that delta, the gap between where we should be and where we've been is going to shrink. Other teams are going to keep spending too. Bo's totally right on that. But I think we're going to start to catch up in that front. Now, will they get the right pieces? Because Wisconsin has spent money on guys that didn't work out. You guys remember Darren Varner, the defensive end from Temple. There's been obviously Jaden Ballard. I mean, not that those are big money pieces, but they've brought in plenty of players that haven't worked. So it's just spending money is not enough. To everybody's point, you got to evaluate, you got to develop, you got to scheme. Yeah, Badger Bournemouth evals are more important than money. I think they're kind of equally important, if I'm going to be completely honest. There is a reason the best schools also spend the most money. It allows you, the less money you spend, the better you have to be at eval. And the more money you spend, quite frankly, the worse you can be at eval. Because the money gets you into a tier of players that are more proven, which requires less eval. But you're not wrong, dude. Not wrong at all. Like, you have to absolutely still hit the evals on all of these guys. And it's not just eval in terms of how good they are as a player. It's eval how they're going to fit your scheme. It's eval how they're going to fit into your culture, how they're going to fit into your team. How are you going to be able to use them? Those are big parts of the eval too. It's not just this guy's really good. It's this guy's really good, and he also fits us. There's a puzzle piece missing, and he fits into that. All right, we're going to wrap it there on Wisconsin. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's. Enjoy playing football today. We will definitely talk tomorrow and look forward for a lot of action. It's going to be a busy couple weeks here.